Hi guys, and welcome to the second tutorial of Visual Basic 2010 Express. So in this tutorial we're going to make a Hello World application in Visual Basic, and I'm just going to sort of show you around the user interface. So first we want to go New Project, and we want to select Windows Forms Application. Now you can do a few other things in Visual Basic by default using the standard version, such as a console application, a browser application, a WPF application, or make a new class library. The main two you're going to be working with generally, especially when you start out, are console applications, which are programs that run in a console environment. So sort of like the black with the white text, old style terminal type of environment, or a Windows form. So like what you're seeing on the screen now with a window, buttons, images, text, all that sort of thing. So we're going to make a form application, and let's call this Hello World. You can call it whatever you like, application 1, Hello World, test, whatever you want. And then we go OK. So once that loads, you're going to have a designer sort of a thing on your screen where you're going to have the form, which you're viewing in real time, so that if you move it, it moves. You can put images and text on that form, and it'll propagate, change stuff around. And so this is really the designing part of the program. So this is where you design, get user interface set out. The actual coding itself happens in a different environment, which is more of a text editor environment. But Visual Basic is really easy because it allows you to drag and drop different things onto your applications, and allows the easy editing, I guess, of parts of your software. So if we just sort of double click on the window there, we come up to this environment, and this is where the code gets written. But we'll deal with that a little bit later. So going back to your design here, which you can do just by switching the tabs. If you click on the window and it's highlighted, you can obviously change the size of the window. So for this tutorial, we're going to keep it around this size, relatively small. And if you look down here in the side here, you have the properties area. Now the properties area allows you to edit some of the different properties or settings of the object you have highlighted and selected. So for example, the name of the thing we've selected, which is the main window here, is Form 1. If you scroll down a little bit, we should be able to get to text. Here it is. Text Form 1. So what text is the heading that goes up here. So if we change this to say Hello World, if we look up here, the text up here is changed to Hello World. Now that's editable in this parameters or properties section. You can also edit a bunch of other things like the icon. Now what the icon does is it allows you to select a 32 by 32 pixel image, which will be displayed up here where this icon is. You set that here. You can change the font, background colors, the size, all sorts of things in this properties section. And it really is, a great tool, and it's much easier than trying to edit different things, using the code. So for this Hello World application, we want to go to our toolbox, which is on the side here. And in the toolbox are a whole bunch of different things we can drag and drop onto our form. So let's take a look at one example, a label. Now what a label is it's just basically some text or information. So we just drag it out, and let's drop it around here, and it says label 1. If we have that selected and we go to our properties, we can edit the name, label 1, the text that the label contains. So let's just call this Hello World. This is our first Visual Basic application. Okay, we click back on the form over here, and here it is. Here's what we have typed. Now, using this properties window as well, we can also go up here and change the font. So if we click this button here, it'll load up a font screen. So at the moment we're using Microsoft Sans Serif. We're using a regular font style and it's size 8. So let's say we wanted to increase it to size 12, make the font bold, and we'll keep it at Microsoft Sans Serif for the moment. We go OK, look in here, here it is. It's bold. Now, obviously it gets cut off because we made the text a bit bigger, so we can adjust our window accordingly. So that's actually all very easy stuff to do, quite simple, and Visual Basic, really allows these sort of basic functions to happen very easily and quickly. So let's try and add another thing to our Hello World application. Let's try and add a button. Now buttons are very important. They sort of control the program, allow the user to input things and control the way the program behaves. So most of the time you're going to be using a lot of buttons in Visual Basic. So we just drag it over here and our button appears. It's called button 1, and if we go over again to our properties, we can change a whole bunch of different things. Let's change the text on button 1 to say exit. And this is going to be very simple. It's just going to exit the program. Okay, so we're going to learn a bit of coding in this tutorial, but this is mainly just to get used to the interface. So if we double click on the exit button, it brings up the code here. So let's sort of work out what all this means. It starts off with public class form1. All our code needs to be stored in between these class tags, so public class form1 and end class. This is where all our code is going to be stored, that the program will use to do different functions. Then we have a private sub. Okay, and the first private sub is what form1 does when it loads. So when form1 opens, it's going to execute this code in the private sub here. Underneath that, we have another private sub. This private sub for button 1 click. So the code in this private sub is going to execute when button 1, which is the button here, the exit button, the code here will execute when button 1 is clicked. So we want button 1 to end our program. So to do that, we're going to type in E N D, okay, with a capital, end. Now this window popped up when I started typing. If we go back here, as I type, it gives us all these different options. Now this is I guess smart typing, or I guess a form of typing suggestions, so that when you type some letters, the computer or Visual Basic is going to work out what letters you've been typing in, and try and give you some useful examples of what you could mean. So basically, when we start making more advanced programs, that's going to be very useful. So you don't have to type every single character of code. Instead, you can type the first letter or two, find what you want, and it'll appear automatically. So if we type in EN and we go back up to where we were before, let's try that again. If we go type in E and then an N, we find end here. You can just click end and the rest will appear, or you can just do you can just press the space bar as well, and it'll finish it off. So that's great, as it suggests what to type, and it can be very helpful. So now that we've got end, what does end do? Well, end basically just closes our application. That's pretty simple. So to run it to see if it works, we press this green arrow up here. It says start debugging. Otherwise, if you don't want to press the green arrow, you can press F5, which is the keyboard shortcut. So we press that, and here's our very first Visual Basic application. So here's the main window. It says Hello World, which is the title we set a little while ago. It has our label, which contains some text, and it has our exit button. When we click the exit button, the program exits based on what we told it to do. Now, let's say you've finished making your program and you want to, save it and turn it into an application. So what you would do is you would press Save or Control Shift S, and the Save Project dialog box appears. Based on what you named the project when you first made it, it'll have a name. So if you want to keep it Hello World or whatever you named it at the start, you can do that. Otherwise, feel free to change it. We're just going to leave ours as Hello World. The location is where you want it saved to. In this case, it's C drive, users, user, which is my user account's username, documents, Visual Studio 2010, and then projects. And this is sort of the generic folder where, it's stored by default. And the solution name is Hello World. Now, usually that solution name and the normal name are similar, but there can be reasons why it's different and whatnot there. But we'll go through that in a later tutorial, as it's not complicated, but it's a little bit more advanced. So we're going to go save, and then that saves our project, so we can open it up later and make changes and do whatever we like that way. If you are 100% sure that your project's finished, you want to do something called build your project. Now, what building it does is it creates it into an exe file or an application that you can then distribute, through the internet or give to friends or, do whatever you want with it. So to build our application, debug, build Hello World. And what that should do is it should give you a message down the bottom here that says build succeeded. What that means is if you go into your folder where you saved the project, which would be in Documents, for me anyway, Visual Studio 2010, Projects, Hello World, you have your solution here. That's what you open if you want to make changes in Visual Studio or Visual Basic Express. So that's where you go to edit it. Otherwise, go to Hello World, bin, release, and there is your exe file or application file, and that's the file that you've built. So if you open that, here's your application, and it's this file that you want to distribute on the internet or give to friends or whatever, but that's your built, ready to go application. So that's your first Hello World application using Visual Basic. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have any suggestions or any comments, or you just liked the video, please feel free to comment, rate, and subscribe.